Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Ignace and welcome to the CreatorGalaxy.com space station. In today's video, we're going to see how to create this. Damn, I really enjoy the effects from Doctor Strange so much. I don't know why. I love those effects. It's like something, if you're a visual effects artist, you gotta see it, you gotta recreate it. But it's a bunch of fun, and that's what we're gonna be doing in today's video. If you wanna follow along with this tutorial, I will be providing you the tutorial files necessary in order to follow along. Links will be in the description for that. So here we are in Adobe After Effects. I hit my microphone against the monitor, but everything seems all right. No scratch. Okay, cool. So basically here we are in Adobe After Effects. What I have here is my footage where I do the kind of motion from Doctor Strange. By the way, I uploaded this without any effects on Instagram and asked the people like, what am I doing? And a lot of people actually guessed it. Right, so a lot of Doctor Strange fans out there. So we have this cool animation here, and then another thing that I have, but I wanted to import that right now, is the Doctor Strange shield that I created in Adobe Illustrator, which you can import here. Import it as a composition and then just click OK, and that will import a composition like this. But as it doesn't have any color, what we should be doing is go and click on one of these and go for Effect, Generate, Fill, and let's make it white for now, just so we can see what we are doing here. Okay, so this is the shield, looks pretty nice. All right, and now we are ready to start our tutorial. But before we start our tutorial, what did you think of the sound effects and the sound in general on the intro? I really enjoy working with those sounds lately and making these cinematic moments, kind of mixing everything together. And that brings us to today's video sponsor, Epidemic Sound. Epidemic Sound is currently offering a new subscription license, which is super interesting. It's their commercial license. And if you use my link in the description below, you get 30 days for free, which basically gives you unlimited downloads. And if you don't end up liking it after 30 days, you just don't pay a single dime and you got to use everything that you wanted to use on their website, which is really crazy. You also don't have to worry about like licensing on online platforms, YouTube monetizing. It's no problem whatsoever. So that's really nice. And the quality of sounds they have, it's crazy. Epidemic's commercial plan includes sub-licensing, great for freelancers and production companies working with client projects. Every single Epidemic track is originally produced by musicians, and all the music is owned by Epidemic. No worries for copyright strikes for your own or client projects. I have been using their service for like years now, and especially the sound effects, that's something that attracts me a lot there because they just have unlimited sound effects. And every time I make a video, I just go and search on there my sounds that I need, and I kind of start combining them all together, and that gives me like it's a real luxury to just type in whatever and always find the sound that I need. I never went to the website and like said to myself, okay, I didn't find what I'm looking for here. Alright, so I would definitely encourage you, if you want the same sound effects like in my video right here, to check out the link in the description below, get it for 30 days for free, try it out, play around, and then we'll see where we get. Okay, so back to the tutorial. Alright, so here we are in Adobe After Effects, and the first thing that I actually want to do is animate our shield to make it look like it's rotating and everything is going crazy. It's actually really simple. What I want to do is select all of my layers and press R on the keyboard. Then I'm going to like 1.5 seconds, and I'm going to click on the stopwatch for all the rotation. Then go to the beginning of my layer, and here I kind of want to offset them randomly. So maybe this one to 300, minus 300, 150, minus 150, 200, minus 200, and 50. Wow, okay. And now if we're going to play this, it's just going to rotate randomly and then come to a clean stop, which is not what we want. We want it to come to a smooth stop, make it look all magical. So we're going to select our last keyframes here and right click, go to Keyframe Assistance and select Easy Ease. Now we want to jump into the graph editor and just select these last keyframes and just bring it in just a little bit, not too much. And there we go. If we're going to play this back, it's going to seem a lot smoother when it's coming to a stop. So this is exactly what I'm looking for. And basically that's all that is to it. Then another thing that I want to do is kind of offset them in 3D space. So what I'll be doing is creating a new camera, and actually, just like in the other video that I made last week, I talked about how to kind of move your frames into 3D space using an expression to keep the scale at the composition size. So that's something that we will be using in this instance as well. So I already have this expression copied to my clipboard, but as you can see, all the tutorials that I make, if you learn something new in a tutorial, you can really apply it to whatever you want to apply it. And that's like another reason to watch a tutorial you weren't really planning on following, but then you follow that tutorial and you learn some new techniques that you will apply to like a completely different effect. And that's what I'm doing right here. So I knew I made a tutorial last week and I was like, how am I gonna do this? And I was like,
yeah, I made a tutorial on that. So
sometimes I end up watching my own tutorials or just remembering my own tutorials and giving me inspiration to create something new. So what I will be doing is click on one of these layers. You can solo them if you want to. And I will actually select this layer and then go to like the circle ellipse tool here. And I will mask up out a few like of these. So I'm going to mask out the center ones. I'm going to duplicate it once. Then maybe I'm going to select like an outer circle right here, but then I'm going to subtract the first one. So we just have like, or actually I'm going to do it like that. Okay. Kind of the order of the mask. So I just switch them around, duplicate it once more. And then for this one, I just want to delete like the last one here. I'm going to duplicate this mask and then go into first mask, expand it a little bit like that, and then just subtract the first one. And then just subtract the second one, and that will give me the outer edges right here. So now we have like 3 new layers, which basically make up this circle. So that's exactly what I wanted. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to make him 3D. I want to make him kind of come out a little bit. So when the camera is moving, you will notice that there is some kind of depth in this element. So magic has some kind of depth to it. Well, in Doctor Strange, it does have some depth into it. So I wanted to recreate that. So what I will be doing is selecting all of my layers and toggle the 3D element here. If you don't see that, you can toggle the switches right here. And as we have a camera in our composition, which is very important to have there, we can click on one of the layers, press S on the keyboard, and then hold Alt and click on the stopwatch for the scale. Right here, we can just paste our expression. Again, this will be included in the tutorial files with a link in the description below. And there we go and have it. So that looks really cool. By the way, if your name of the camera doesn't sync up, it might give you an error. So make sure that the camera name is exactly the same as what you're seeing right here. So there we go. We can copy this and then go into all of the scales. So press S on the keyboard for all of these layers. Alt click on all of them and paste it. And you don't really have to do this with expressions. It just makes it so much easier in the long run, because you could kind of basically move them in 3D space, scale them up again, and kind of eyeball it. This is just a correct way of doing it. So what I will be doing is I'm going to use with my camera, I'm going to use the camera motion here and orbit the camera a little bit like that. So right now you can see there is no depth whatsoever in here. So what I will be doing is click on one of these layers, push it forwards a little bit. Click on this one, push it forwards as well. So we have some depth in here, or we can actually push it backwards, like however you want. Open a new one, maybe push this backwards as well a little bit. And new one, push it forwards. This one we can leave it as it is. And then another one, maybe we want to move it forwards a little bit like that, okay. And this one we want to push it back. And actually for my first one, I want to push it a little bit closer to the rest of it. So now if we're going to rotate with my camera, basically I just want to move this even more towards the center, you can see that we have a 3D depth. So that's really cool. Maybe this one I'm going to move it like that. Okay, cool. So now we have a real 3D element, which looks nice. And once you're satisfied, we can just right click on our camera, go to transform and reset it. So that's going to just reset our camera angle, and we can unsolo all of these layers. So now we have our elements. We're going to select all of these, layer, pre-compose this, shield, element, 3D. Okay. So if you're going to click on this icon right here, Now, if we're going to import a camera, we can still move around, but keep the 3D depth. So that's exactly what we want. So now we have a pre-composed item and we have our camera. Next, we want to just import our footage, but not in here, of course. So I'm going to right click, composition settings, shield element 3D. Okay, cool. Then I'm going to drag in my footage into a new composition. Just drag it to the new icon, new composition icon right here. And there we have our footage. Now what we want to do is track our hands. So I will bring out my hands. I want to track them so we can kind of keep the circles in the correct space. So that's what we're going to be doing now. Right click, create new null object. And we're going to rename this right hand, duplicate it, left hand. And then I'm going to be using one of the most powerful tracking tools in After Effects available, Mocha AE. But before we do that, we kind of have to scrub to where we want the animation to start. So like we are going to start opening up here, and like starting from here, we want to start tracking our shot. So we're going to click in the center here, go to edit, split the layer. And then on this splitted layer, we want to apply the Mocha AE effect. Then go into the Mocha. So by clicking on the icon, it's going to open up an entirely new interface, which is basically Mocha. And we're going to choose our pen tool here, the X-Spline tool. And the first thing that we want to do is we're going to be selecting our last hand right here. So we're going to just try and select around it like that. And then just track it forward by clicking this icon. We can actually stop over here and kind of correct it, just so we also have like a mask of our hand, which we will be using later. Just try to kind of roughly get your hand in there and keep tracking it forwards. Okay, cool. So let's see if that looks good. Track did a good job here. Okay, cool. And then next we want to go to the end here and click on the X-Spline tool and then select this hand here. And then track it backwards. And try to keep it like in the right place here. It doesn't really matter that much. This we can like hand animate, so there we go. All right, so there we have it. We can also rename this. So this is going to be our left hand and this is going to be our right hand. Okay, close this up and then go into tracking data, create track data, select the left hand, for example, and also the gear icon, click OK. Then go to the export option, transform, layer to export to. We have like, which one did we choose? Like the left hand. And then we want to choose the left hand and apply export. And basically it should start from here. So I'm going to just delete these two parts here. And then the other one, so the right hand, we want to go create tracking data, select the right hand, uncheck the left hand, click OK, transform, right hand, apply, and there we go. So now we have these nulls, and as you can see, they're sticking pretty well to our shot. Okay, the scaling looks all right. Cool. So now what I want to do is import our shield element. So I'm just going to my project manager here. We have the shield element, just drag it into our composition, like starting from here. We want to parent this to, let's say, well, first let's put it in position. So we're also going to click this icon here, which is going to make it 3D, and then scale it. You can also use the 3D to move it in space, but we're not gonna start doing things like that in this tutorial. So scale it quite small, like right over here. And that's looking pretty cool. So we're going to push it in the space here. Move it over to our hand. And then we're going to bind this to our left hand and duplicate it and bind this one. Move this one to the front. We're also going to move this forward like so. Maybe a little bit back. And there we go. Something like that, I think should be okay. And then we can bind this to the right hand. So now if we're going to check this, we're going to put the left hand with the left hand here. So That should be left hand. So we make this yellow, and this one pink. Okay. Okay, that's looking really, really cool. All right, so that's exactly what we wanted. Of course, you can start build up here and kind of just use the elements separately to already start growing around the hand. It's not really necessary, it's completely up to you. But once you have this, what we can also do is go and click on the right hand here and then press R on the keyboard, make a keyframe for the orientation, and then like go back a little bit and also kind of rotate it a little bit. And that way you're really going to see that kind of 3D animation here. We're kind of moving the perspective of the elements. We're also going to go in here, and with the layers, I'm also going to enable the motion blur for the layers, which like that you're going to see in the movements if you're going to also enable motion blur for this layer. And it's kind of a lot. So we're going to the composition settings and maybe go to the advanced, maybe change it to like 180, and that should kind of solve it. And maybe up the samples to like 32 and maybe like 90 it's okay. Maybe a little bit less. Okay, cool. So next we want to kind of design the shield a little bit. So let's solo one of these, go a little bit more in time, so where the rotation is done, you don't have too much motion blur, maybe around here. And what we want to do is give it some style. So we're going to apply a roughen edges effect to our circle here, and then like set it to 1 or something like 2, and just like play and see what works. Maybe 0.7 for the edge sharpness and a complexity of 10. And that way you're kind of roughing it up and make it look a little bit older than it really is. And yeah, it kind of gives it more detail and like you spend a lot more time into making this. Next, what we will be doing is adding a solid composite effect. This, we're going to make it black. And the reason why we're applying the solid composite effect is because later we are going to be working with glows, and it always works better when you have like a real black background on your scene and then just change the blending mode to a screen instead of just having a transparent image applying glow on there. It never works out like that, so that's why we are adding this in here. And that already looks pretty cool. Then I'm going to add a turbulence noise, and I'm also going to change the blending mode to a multiply. Increase the contrast to like 200 and increase the brightness a little bit, maybe even more contrast. That way you're getting kind of these roughness stuff going on, which looks really cool. Maybe play with the transform here. And then we can all click on the stopwatch for the evolution and write a simple expression like times, well, let's say 200. And that should be okay. So in that way, it's going to animate it a little bit over time, these kind of empty spots in here. So you can really play around with all these settings and just see what works. Then I'm going for Effects, Video Copilot, VC Color Vibrance, which is a free plugin, but I just really enjoy working with this one. And also you see that a white isn't really covering. We can just simply select Clip, and that should allow a lot more of these results. And then also lower the brightness like that. There we go. And then change the color to whatever you want. So we want like an orange color. Play with the vibrance, play with the preserve luminance. And that's already looking pretty cool. So if we're going to unsolo this now, and we're going to change the blending mode to a screen, this is what we get. Okay, cool. But as you can see, it doesn't have any glow, and we need to add some glow. So now we have applied all these effects. What I will be applying now is Perfect Glow, which is one of the presets that we have on our website. It's also completely for free. We'll also put a link to that in the description below. Set this to like 15 on the threshold, and maybe 10 even, or let's say to 15. And as you can see, it's already giving some pretty cool results. And as you can see, it's like looking way too sharp, so that's not okay. So before the glow, what we will add is a camera lens blur. So search for camera lens blur and apply this before the glow. And there we go, maybe like 10. So it's really out of focus, it's close to the camera, and the other one, we're going to give it like a little bit less. So this is looking pretty cool. I'm going to press T on the keyboard and add a tint effect to everything at the end and set it to like 30%. So it's a little bit more desaturated to fit a little bit more in our scene and a little bit more of the exposure of the shot itself. And then all we want to do is select all of these effects, copy them and paste them on our other shield element. And also set the blending mode to a screen. And here we do want to make like less camera lens blur. And most importantly is of course the roughen edges, because now it's like further away, so the lines are a little bit thinner. So we want to lower the border here to something like 0.5, and there we go. Also lower the edge sharpness, so we can basically just check all of these effects, close them down, kind of see individually what everything is doing. So this looks okay, looks okay, looks less okay. So here we do have a problem. So let's set it to 100. That looks okay again. Maybe even like 0.1. Looks okay, and there we go. Camera lens blur, maybe even like 2. Cool. And there we have our effect. Maybe add a little bit more of the contrast here. All right, so there we have that going on. And of course you can add a little bit more glow here. So maybe 0.15. There we go. So basically I can't tell you which numbers to fill in exactly. You just have to play around and see what works. Just follow as closely as you can. I'm trying to go over my entire thought process behind this as well. I'm also going to create a new solid layer, and I'm going to make this like a dark kind of orange color. Click OK. And then I'm also going to make a circle in the center here, and then press F on the keyboard and kind of feather it quite a bit. And then I do want to position this like over here in the center, put it behind the shields, and bind it to my left hand. Press T on the keyboard and change the blending mode to like a screen, and just lower it by like 20% or 10. Very low, but that is going to give like a kind of light coming off. I think 15 is going to look okay. So now it looks a little bit more glowy, a little bit more like light is coming from that. So we can duplicate this and then kind of move it over here, scale it up quite a bit, and then bind this with the right hand. Now we want to add some reflections to our face. We're going to create a new adjustment layer, reflections. And we're going to also bring this kind of to the bottom here, and then mask around your face, something like that. And then add a curves effect to it, and then kind of just brighten it up. Press F on the keyboard, feather it quite a bit. And then also bring in the red tones here and remove some of the blue so it becomes like more orange toned. And there we go. So now we can see that we have some light going on. And of course you want to lower the opacity quite a bit. And then press M on the keyboard, click on the stopwatch for the mask path, and then just kind of animate it wherever your body is changing, kind of move it down here. Maybe also fade it in here. So I'm just quickly going to rotoscope it. Okay, cool. So right over here, I'm going to press T on the keyboard, click on the stopwatch for the opacity, go to the beginning and set it to 0. I'm also going to do the same thing for these over here. So press T on the keyboard, move these over and set it to 0. And we can actually just trim them to where it starts. And here it will fade in. Cool. Next, we want to add these particles. So we're going to create a new solid layer, make it black, rename it particles, and let's solo it so everything keeps like fast-paced enough. So we're going to add the CC particle world, apply that to our system here, to our layer, and then we want to go into the grid and guides and uncheck grid so we don't have to see that all the time. Go into the physics, the producer, and also the particle tab. The particle type, we're going to change it to a faded sphere and set it to 0.01, 0.05, something like that should be okay. And then we want to kind of make them start like from here. So now if we're going to play this, it looks like that. if we're going to enable motion blur for this layer, we are going to start seeing these lines, which is really cool. So you can either make them a little bit thicker, so maybe 0.02 and 0.07. So we see them a little bit better, and change the colors to a more kind of orange toned color. And there we go. And we keep them at explosive and maybe like velocity of 2 or 1, but increase the gravity quite a bit, like so. And then basically you just want to reposition them on top of your elements. So this one, we can move it over here. And also we want to add like a solid, the perfect glow effect here. So I'm going to apply perfect glow. Set it to 15, 10, 0.2, 0.15, 0.11. So that's looking pretty cool. Maybe play a little bit more with the colors. And also change the blending mode, of course, to like an additive. And I am going to make them smaller, so 0.5, 0.05, 0.04, 0.01. We really want to keep them kind of subtle. And I'm also going to lower the birth rate to 1. All right, we can duplicate these and then move them over to the front here. And here we do want to make them a little bit bigger, a little bit, to match the perspective of the shot a little bit. So make it a little bit bigger, move them over, and then play with the particle producer and set, the particle actually, and set it to 0.05 and 0.07. And there we have our particles for the front. And of course here you can also add your camera lens blur. So for the first one, camera lens blur, apply that. Set it to 2, copy and paste it to the frontal ones, and set this to 10. Okay, now we have our particles. So let's see what we have so far. Now what I want to do is kind of add some kind of flares that kind of explode and kind of mess around a little bit with the shot to kind of make that transition a little bit smoother to where these start here. So I'm going to right click new and create a new solid layer. I'm also going to make this kind of an orange toned color and click OK, like that. Choose the ellipse tool, make a circle, press F on the keyboard, set it to like 50. Maybe 25. Duplicate this mask, open it up, increase the expansion here, and set it to like 100. Duplicate it, increase the expansion, make it softer. That's looking a little bit better. Now if we set this to like an additive, we do have like some kind of flare going on. And actually change the color to maybe a white, and then we can play around with the effect Video Copilot VC Color Vibrance, which allows it a little bit more flexibility. So I just wanted to show you the big difference. You saw the orange here, check the orange here. It looks completely different just because of the VC Color Vibrance. So 0.5 and maybe like 0.8 and 0.8, or let's keep this at 1. Okay, and then right here we do want to position them in like one on the hand here, and set a keyframe for 100 opacity. Go 1 frame back, set it to 0, move 10 frames forward, set it to 0 as well. And then this one, we are going to right click, keyframe assistance, easy ease, open up the graph editor and kind of smoothen it out like that. And just make it a little bit faster. And duplicate it. And move the other one like to the right, and this one a little bit more to the left. And then on this one on the bottom, we are going to press M on the keyboard and duplicate one of the masks one more time to expand it quite a bit. 1500 to kind of cover the screen a little bit more, but just make sure that of course you don't see these edges here. So 1200 and maybe something like that. And then you see kind of like a bright flare just before these are coming out. So that's really cool. And of course, for the track here, for the reflection, just kind of get a little bit better position here. By tracking it like that, for example. Because I did see some errors in the reflections, but like it's such a long tutorial that I kind of want to get it up to like a pace, because yeah, we don't want to watch like hours and hours long tutorial, right? So right now that looks a little bit better. It's kind of sticking a little bit better to that. So yeah, just see what works for you. And then lastly, you can, for example, add a simple like shake effect. So adjustment layers shake. And I'm going to be using one of our shakes, so the TC shake preset, which is included in our TC transition spec, also available on our website if you want to go and check it out. I have a link to it in the description below. You don't have to get this one, you can make your own shake. I just use this one a lot of times, so that's why I'm going to be using it in this tutorial. I'm just going to make these keyframes in the center, then select all of these keyframes, control and click on this one. Select these keyframes, I'll just bring them just in front of this movement here. And then these here, we do want to bring up the value to like 35, quite a bit. And then we want to select the last keyframes, right click, keyframe assistance, easy ease, go into the graph editor and move them in a little bit like that. And that way, if we're going to play this, you're going to see a little bit of a screen shake, adding a little bit more power, a little bit more momentum into our effect. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give this video a like. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel for more and hit the notification bell so you stay notified when I upload new videos. Also be sure to check out our website, creatorgalaxy.com, which basically helps any digital creator. I will put links in the description below, and it also helps to support this channel. Apart from that, I hope to see you guys and girls in the next one. Take care and goodbye.